Welcome to the Fit Vegan Podcast, the show where we help you optimize your health, fitness, and mindset on a whole food, plant-based lifestyle. My name is Maxime Sigouin. I am a former triathlete, powerlifter, bodybuilder, and basketball player, and I've been vegan for over 9 years. I'm also the founder and CEO of Fit Vegan Coaching, which has helped over 500 vegans from 20 different countries to completely transform their bodies and their health. I'm excited for you to hear today's episode. Let's get into the show. All right, good morning, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Fit Vegan Podcast. Today, we're going to talk about how to get back on track after your Thanksgiving meal, or in a matter of fact, any holiday meal. So I know we just passed Thanksgiving. Some people went pretty hard on the food and probably went over the calories that they were supposed to eat. They had started their fitness journey, their fat loss journey, or they were all the way at the end and that was a slip up for them. Here's how you deal with these moments. It's one single trick, and I can probably wrap up the podcast after that. Focus on winning the next meal. That's it. That's all that you need to do. And I want to explain why. I've been in the fitness space for over 17 years at this point. I've helped over 600 people transform just with the Fit Vegan Blueprint program, but probably thousands of people throughout the years. And the mistake that people make is when they go off track, the next day they're trying to compensate with two ways, either with nutrition or either with exercise. So here's what happened if you try to compensate with nutrition and training, and I'll tell you why both of those scenarios are not a good idea, and it's how it's actually setting you up for success further down the road. So if you're trying to compensate for your nutrition, you're going to remove some of your calories from the following day in the hope to compensate for how much you went over your calories on the night before, for example, for Thanksgiving. So let's just say you went over by 600 calories on Thanksgiving. The next day, if you remove 600 calories from your daily nutrition, let's just say you're supposed to eat 2,000 calories per day, you're down to 1,400 calories per day. Let's just say you're supposed to eat 3,000 calories per day as a man, you are now down to 2,400 calories per day. What do you think a 600 calorie deficit will lead you to do? You're going to be hungry, right? Because it's not an amount of food that you're accustomed to eating. It's actually a pretty big deficit on a daily basis, and especially to do in one shot. And so if you remove 600 calories the following day, you're going to be hungry. You're going to have more cravings. You're going to be more likely to overeat on your nutrition when you told yourself that you wouldn't, right? And what's going to happen, maybe on that day, you'll be able to stick to 600 calories. And then the following day, you'll just be starving. You're more likely to overeat on your calories. And if you overeat on the calories, guess what's going to happen? You're going to try to compensate the next day with your calories. And then you're just playing this yo-yo game of like slightly overeating, trying to compensate the next day, being hungrier, overeating, trying to compensate the next day. It's not a good idea, and it's not going to set you up for success. On the flip side, I see a lot of people trying to out-exercise how many calories they ate. I don't know for you, but how long do you think it takes you to burn 600 calories of food that you ate, right? So I'm not taking with your basal metabolic activity on top of the exercise. I'm talking of just pure exercise. So if you look at your Apple Watch, is one of the ones that does a good job at this. It'll tell you how many is your basal metabolic rate. For example, if you did 30 minutes of exercise, if you were to do nothing, you would have burned some calories, and it tells you how much you burn from exercise. So the number of how much you burn per exercise is how much would need to be 600 for you to technically compensate for the nutrition the day before. So two things to that. You're going to have to do a lot of exercise to compensate for those extra calories that you've eaten. And on the flip side of that, what do you think happens if you do cardio to burn an additional 600 calories? You're going to be hungry. If I go for a run and I burn 600 calories just from that run, not including my basal metabolic rate, I'm going to be hungry. After 600 calories, I'm starving. If I go for a bike ride, a bike workout, if I go for a swim, whatever training session I would do for 600 calories would leave me starving after. So like, yes, I could eat some food, but I would more likely to overeat because I just burned a shit ton of calories trying to compensate for the previous days of food, right? And again, that leaves you in a yo-yo cycle of you do a bunch of cardio, you have more cravings, you're hungrier, you potentially overeat more, and then the next day you're either trying to compensate with your calories or over exercise on to trying to burn the calories, and it's just a never ending cycle. Some people will do both. They'll do a bunch of cardio and they'll cut their food to try to compensate for it. Guess what's going to happen? You're going to be super hungry and you're more likely to overeat, and and make bad decisions. And then again, it's just a yo-yo cycle. And that's why a lot of people develop an unhealthy relationship with food and exercise, because they see it as a way to compensate for when they are not eating on track with the way that they're supposed to, right? They see it as like, okay, I can do this exercise if I overeat this way. And then what starts to happen, it's like, if I do all of this exercise, then I can eat all of this food, right? And that's not how it works. And then some people, you just fall into a very unhealthy mindset, and you start to use food and exercise to compensate for your bad behavior and your bad habits, basically. So I get it. It's easier to do that than it is to fix a bad habit, because a bad habit is psychological, right? You can't physically do anything about it. You just have to deal with your head, versus a physical thing. You can do something about it, right? Like you can exercise, you can limit your food intake. And so we feel more powerful when we're doing things in a physical realm when compared to the psychological side, where it's a mental game, and it tends to be harder for most people to do than to do more exercise. So why I say focus on winning the next meal is because regardless of if you went over by 500 or 600 calories, if you just focus on winning the next meal, so let's just say you mess up your breakfast, right? You have brunch with your family and you just go nuts and you go overboard on what you're supposed to eat. If you're trying to compensate for the rest of the day, you're going to be starving, right? By just simply going back to like eating your protein smoothie you're supposed to have in the afternoon, going back to your regular dinner you're supposed to have on your meal plan, you're starting to build a healthy relationship with food. And then what's going to happen is every time you focus on winning the next meal, whether that's lunch and going to dinner, or you have a shitty dinner, or you binge at night, focus on winning the next day for the breakfast, you start to build a healthy relationship with food and with exercise. And then you start to become aware that when you have these moments, they don't make you feel that great after, because your brain is not focused on overcompensating by cutting your food and exercising. It's actually present to like, okay, I'm going to eat my normal amount of food that I'm supposed to have the next day, but like, I don't feel good. I feel bloated. I feel puffy. My face feels puffy. I have a headache. I didn't sleep as well, right? You start to notice the negative side effects that comes from you going overboard when you're not supposed to. And then what happens as you progress along, you'll have less and less of those slip up, right? That's the name of the game. It's not to be perfect off the bat. It's to catch yourself over time and diminish those moments where you go off track, where you start to gain gain mastery over your emotion and start to make good decisions. So instead of being reactive, you start to being responsive. And then when an opportunity presents itself, like Thanksgiving or a Christmas party or something like that, you look at the food and you're like, okay, I know that if I am to go over, this is how I'm going to feel after. And then you have two choices. You can choose not to do it, because you can choose that, okay, I want to stay on track with my goals and I want to feel good the next day. Or you can choose to overeat on your food and choose to grab less than healthy options. But that's okay. Here's why: because it's a choice that you made. You have accepted the consequences that come from you deciding to eat these types of food and going overboard. And if you own the decision, that's very different than if you do it from a reactive state and the next day you're like running around like, oh my God, I completely messed up. I suck and I can't stick to my word. And you start to beat yourself down. Right? So if it's a choice, it's completely different. That's why winning the next meal allows you to have a healthier relationship with food, with training, with yourself, with the process. And so what? Even if you go over by 600 calories, it might destroy your calorie deficit for the week. If you do that for 2 days out of the week, it doesn't matter. Even if it takes you an extra few weeks longer for you to get to your fat loss goals, it's a lot better for you to get there with a healthy mindset and a healthy relationship with food and exercise than to get there faster and have a completely distorted view of how to handle your nutrition and your training, because then that's going to be with you for the rest of your life until you decide to address it. Now, I'll be honest, after having coached over 600 people, most people come in the program with a distorted view of nutrition and training, and we have to help them fix that relationship and for it to become better. And I get it. I was there for many, many years, and it took me a long time for me to heal my relationship with food and with nutrition. With nutrition and with training. And so that's my piece of advice for you, right? How to get back on track for Thanksgiving. Just focus on winning the next meal. Just focus on winning the next workout. If you had a shitty workout, it's fine. It's done. At least you showed up. Focus on winning the next workout. If you missed your workout, that's fine. Win the next day. Win the next moment. Don't try to compensate for something, because again, then you start to fall into a vicious cycle and build an unhealthy relationship with your mind, with yourself, and with the whole process. If you have an unhealthy relationship with the process, then you'll never actually follow through on it, because it's going to start to suck. You're going to start to believe that you don't have what it takes to do it. You're going to start losing confidence. And that's not what we want. I want every single one of you to succeed in your fat loss, in your health, and in your fitness journey. And the only way to do that is for you to have that confidence that you're able to follow through on what you say you're going to do, and to have that healthy relationship with food and fitness, because it's a beautiful world. It's amazing for you to be able to experience what your body can accomplish, how much you can tweak and fine tune your body. I believe every human should be able to live that at least once in their life, to gain mastery over their own body and their own health, so they can see how much that can build a strong foundation to help them level up in every other area of their life, right? Big believer, you can have all the money in the world and all of these things, but if you don't have your health, you're not going to have a fulfilling, happy life. You're going to be overweight, in pain, inflamed. Your body's going to be limited to the things that you can do. You won't be able to enjoy your life to the fullest, right? You were meant to move as humans. We're meant to move and to just enjoy the beauties that our body can produce. And so I'm going to leave you on that. Focus on winning the next meal. It's been a trick that has helped hundreds of our members, if not all of our members, get through these hard times where they've slipped and they've gone overboard, and allowed them to build a healthier relationship with food, with themselves, and with fitness. If you found this podcast valuable, be sure to let me know. Share the episode with someone that would benefit from it. And I did want to mention, and I've warned before this, we're changing the name of the podcast in the next week or so. I'm actually recording a new intro after this, so very excited. Just expanding the topics that we're going to be able to talk about on the podcast, because I want to help you guys beyond fitness and nutrition. And so very excited for that to come out. So be sure to stay tuned for it. And I will create a podcast that literally says Fit Vegan 2, the new name of the show, which I don't want to announce yet. And I actually, just fun fact, I have the name of the show tattooed on my body. I had it tattooed on my body before I came up with the name of the show. So maybe you know what it is. I'll just leave it at that. So if you guys enjoyed this episode, be sure to let me know. If you're on YouTube, be sure to give it a thumbs up. If you guys are interested in transforming, right? Black Friday deal. By the time this podcast comes out, there's 2 days left to the Black Friday deal, Cyber Monday deal. Literally 30% savings off our Fit Vegan Blueprint program. We never do this. And this is the last time, honestly, that I'll do this big of a savings, because so many people jumped on it. We actually had to start turning some people around, because we're like, we really want people that are qualified, that are ready to do the work. And so if you're ready to do the work, you're ready to transform on a plant-based lifestyle, you want to get fit, healthy, and optimize your life, then there's a link in the show notes where you can book your free consultation call. So looking forward to chatting with you. Enjoy your day, and I will see you in the next episode. Ciao.